when you're talking. And you can take them on journeys by walking around like this. And you can have a straight face, or you can throw a joke into it, then go back to your default position in a room and your default setting on the tone of voice. You can make it quiet and people have to listen to you as you speak like this. Or you make it really loud and then people go like this. You take them on a whole journey. The more you can change and the more you can play with the different levels, the more engaged your audience will be. They want to go on a journey with you. If you're just talking very briefly, then that's fine. But if you're going to talk for maybe 15, 20 minutes, you want to give them the best opportunity to take in as much as possible from you. One of the best ways of noticing this is the start of movies. At the beginning of a movie, they've got to get you into the movie with the action starting or with something important happening, but also take you from knowing nothing about it to the scene being set. And the best ways to watch these is Disney movies. Disney movies have so well-crafted intros that within the tune of the opening credits, you're exactly where you need to be. So for instance, if you take something like The Lion King, the sun goes up, or as the sunset goes up, and you hear that, and you hear that chanting going on, and you see all those animals starting to wake up, and they're all sort of looking around, and then you start to see more of them moving, lots of different animals that start going in a direction, and then you see this whole plane of things. But it's set out from the skies, from amongst the jungle, to near the rivers, to everything. So it all ends up with the holding up of the Lion King. But that whole journey, by the time it gets to actually saying the Lion King, you're in that world.
Next time you do that, it's Arsene Wenger. Next time you do that, it's Arsene Wenger. Just shout it.
Arsene Wenger?
Yeah.
Arsene Wenger. I like that, thank you. That's fantastic. I will never forget that for the rest of my life. That's brilliant. But it's so well crafted, and Disney do this better than almost anybody. They take you from a zero to knowing exactly where the positioning is. So what you take from that is if you want to go on stage and you want to start sharing with people, I say stage, it could be a boardroom, it could be your own staff, or it could be a Q&A session. Think about the build-up that you're having there. If you don't have any kind of positioning, any kind of build-up, which could be your slides, it could be the way you're introduced, it could be the way the mood of things are going before you get there, it could be some music and a break that you take before you start speaking. These are all important ways of repositioning yourself. If you don't consider all these different contributions, then you're putting yourself on the spot because all you have is you standing there and starting dead.
I think that's where the three things really helps as well.
Careful.
Like today I'm going to take you through three things. So that's exactly how I started my speech this week, which was, guys, today I'm going to take you through three things. One is this, second is this, third is this. Okay, great. Anything else? No, let me start with the first thing. And it's a great way just to, it sets the audience expectations of what they're going to get in the next 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
And it's a good way to, without being introduced, introduce yourself and people know what they're going to get.
That's excellent. It's really good. And also, if you want to see that put in perspective, look at what happened to the Mueller report. Going back to a Trump thing, the Mueller report was positioned there as this is the deal breaker. And what they did was release the worst case scenario of what it could be before it came out. So by the time these things came out, everyone had already had the scandal taken off and said, yeah, okay, fine. So there's nothing in there. So you can preempt and pre-influence before you get there. One of the most fascinating ways of doing it is, I don't know if I mentioned to you guys about Robert Cialdini and his book on influence. There's a book called Influence, which has 6 major things that can make a sale happen. Part of it is scarcity, part of it is social proof. So scarcity, while stocks last, come down and buy these new jumpers because there'll be none left by the end of the day today.
Yeah.
Now you might not have thought you wanted a jumper, but they're going to run out. Maybe I should go get myself one because I'll never get that. Scarcity really works. Time is a scarcity. Literally we do it by the end of the week. If you don't do it, that's a whole year before we get back together again. I'll leave it by the end of the week. Another thing is social proof. You show to people that there's a credibility. I've done it for many other people, so therefore you can see exactly how I do it. Another one is making people feel guilty because you've given them something. So I'll do something for you, so you feel obliged to do something for me. There's about 6 different things that are really powerful for being able to make people want to buy from you. But Robert Cialdini had a new book that came out about 2 years ago called Persuasion. Persuasion, not persuasion, but how you can get the process of sales working even before you start the process of sales. And this is important as a speaker to be able to be aware of these things. So one of the things that I did I tell you about this before?
No, but I am aware of this.
Sure. One of the things that he did, for instance, was he had a setup for a guy walking down the street, and a girl goes up to him and says, "Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to a certain street?" So she asked him for directions, and he would answer her, and he'd give directions or not give directions, whatever it is. Then he'd walk further on, and another girl would come up to him and say to him, "Those guys over there, there's 4 guys, 5 guys have just stolen my mobile phone. Could you give me a hand getting my mobile phone back? It's very important to me. I've got my family's pictures on it and my mum and everything like that." Now, before that question came up, there was a huge difference, almost like 30-40% of the guys that said yes to going to get my mobile phone, depending on the name of the street that the girl had asked for to the same guy earlier. They found a huge percentage spike in guys who are willing to go and possibly get a slap for trying to get his phone back if they showed the directions or were asked for the directions to Valentine Street. Valentine Street, because if you hear it, this girl's coming up to you, you're thinking, Valentine, love, romance, opportunity. Even if you're married, it doesn't matter, it's that noble guy style thing. So then you go to the next thing, you're thinking Valentine Street, here's somebody who needs it, I need to be a knight in shining armour. Really interesting how it affected. So from the other side, they did a survey on a guy, good-looking guy, who would approach women in a shopping mall and start the conversation going and ask them for a date. And the shop they were in front of made a massive spike in whether they'd go for a date with a stranger or not. So which shop was it?
Los Enza.
That would usually help anyway. What type of shop? Without a specific name, what type of shop?
A teddy bear shop.
Not a teddy bear shop.
Chocolate.
Not chocolate.
Flower.
Flowers. The flower shop was a deal breaker. If he asked her in front of the flower shop, she was more likely to say yes, because it had romance and had, maybe this is serendipity, maybe we should be going out because of all the places, this is what I talk about in our marriage. Those little things going through and sparking is quite powerful. So it's worthwhile thinking about that when you go out to speak, because when we did the percentages before, what makes a big difference about whether the audience go with you or not, a lot of it is the setup of the room, a lot of it is the way that they're invited towards when going to see you. When I do a hypnosis show, if people are aware that they're going to a hypnosis show, I'll get a great show. If I stand up in front of a load of strangers and say, right, I'm going to hypnotise some people won't go with it. It's going to be very difficult to get it to work. So the more you can get people in context beforehand, the better. Whether it's handing out stuff or asking a question or saying, I want you to think about something during this break before we come back and do something. What would you like to be doing that's different for the company? And what would you like the management to know about? That's the question. I'll see you in 20 minutes when you go and get your coffee break. Then you come back and everyone's on tune. So you can use a lot of words to frame this really well. There's really worth framing about it. So for instance, the framing that I'm going to be using with my promos and with my audios and my videos that I'm going to be doing on LinkedIn and social media from now on is that I'm at that level. Therefore, all the stuff I was doing previously isn't available anymore. You can buy it if you come to that, but it's not given away for free. It's positioning. So think about that with your audience, who your core people are that you want to reach, and how you want to do that. Cool. All right, let's get another question in. All right. If you're meeting anyone who's famous, and you've already done yours, which is good. Actually, we can still get you on that. What question
I'll
do you
change
want?
my answer this time.
You talk about why don't human beings have natural fur built into them? It's so much more on it. Let's throw it at somebody else. So who do you talk to, and what do you talk about? Taz.
Just get the first one, I can go again. If I could have a conversation with a famous living person, I would like to have a conversation with Simon Sinek.
Okay.
I don't know if you.
I don't know.
Okay, so a lot of people won't know who he is, but let me take just a minute or two just to take you through who he is and why I'd like to talk to him. He is somebody who is, for me, a great leadership coach, and somebody who I have developed with over the last 6 to 12 months through reading some of his books, such as Leaders Eat Last. The reason that I would like to talk to him is because he's had such a profound impact on my leadership journey, that I've gone from wanting to deliver results for me to wanting to develop people so they can be the best that they can be, and results become a consequence. If I hadn't have been introduced to him and his books, I would not be the leader that I am today, and therefore I'd like to meet with him to do two things. One is to thank him for what impact he's had on me, and secondly is to learn more from him, because while I've learned a lot, there's always more that I can learn. So just to close off, the person that I'd like to speak to is Simon Sinek, and it's just to basically thank him for the impact he's had on me and my teams, and just to see what else I can take from him.
There must be something that you always wanted to ask him now. What would you do with that?
I would like to ask him about what his biggest leadership learnings have been, and then see what I can take from that.
Excellent. Great answer, and nice setup as well. Here's the thing for you. You've got quite a nasal delivery, and that's natural, that's where you do speak. If you can drop your voice down a little bit, the power that you'll have over every audience is going to be incredible.
What do you mean?
If instead of what do you mean, you go, what do you mean?
Okay.
For the next questions and next stuff, just test it, just try it out. Because what happens is, if politicians drop their voice lower, and it becomes more convincing for everybody. Okay. Very, very powerful. Change the tone and drop. So if I go, how's everyone doing? Everyone okay? Great, nice to see you. How's everyone doing? Everyone great? Nice to see you.
Okay.
The difference in that is quite profound. So when you're in a position where you are a leader and you are influencing, the content that you have is very good, and I've no doubt about that. But if you can lower your voice slightly, and that means you lose quite a lot of the volume, so you probably have to use a microphone as opposed to shouting it, which you might have done quite easily before. If you lower it with tone and have a microphone boost it, you instantly are positioned, bar none, as the key decision maker in the room.
Okay.
Very, very powerful tip to have. Okay. Triple A, all yours.
Alright. So we always want to be a better version of ourselves. Every day, for example, like what I do, I say, you know what, today would be a better day. And there's one guy who really had a big impact on my life that I've never met in my life ever. He inspired me since I was 15 years old. His name is Kobe Bryant. He's a basketball player. And his work ethic was amazing. This guy used to wake up 4 in the morning, almost every single day. And he used to work out for 2 hours and then go play basketball for a couple of hours, and then probably have lunch, meet his family, and then again used to work out. So he used to work out almost 4 to 5 times a day. And what's really amazing about this guy, he was with the same team, he was loyal to the same team, which is the LA Lakers, all right? And I really want to meet him just to understand how did he, all those obstacles that he had, all those haters, how did he deal with all those haters? And hopefully one day I'll meet with this guy.
That's a great question.
But I should have made it longer, I think.
No, that's fine. Well, what's your thoughts? Did that work for you?
Yeah.
I didn't feel there was anything that needed to go into that. I felt that from the beginning, you positioned him, you told them why I was used, why you wanted to see him, what we could get from it as people who are non-basketball fans because of the work ethic, and then the question about the haters was great. That was slightly off what I would have expected.
I was sitting here and I was going to say that because you were setting it up as in this guy is totally dedicated, he's working out 5 hours. I thought your question was going to be, how do you motivate yourself to do that? You know what I mean? So it was relative to your setup, is how I thought you were going to say, rather than his.
I think one thing that he did really well was he didn't come out and say, I want to meet Kobe Bryant because you're
Yeah.
the person, I want to meet this person, and you made us wait,
Yeah.
and it hooked us because
Yeah,
who do you want to meet? Who do you want to meet? And then he dropped it.
Yeah.
And that's quite a smart way to
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Absolutely. But you see how when you did that, we had no choice but to wait. So if somebody wants to interrupt, you say, I haven't said it, I haven't finished it yet. Let me just say, okay. Because if you're in a panel and there's a number of people, you're all positioning yourself to get the very best out of the audience, and you want to hog the microphone as much as possible. You don't necessarily have to do that. If you can position yourself by saying things like you did, you play it out, you're smart, you make it so what's in it for the audience, you make it so it's got all life examples, and you make it relevant, then what you say has such impact that even if it's shorter than everyone else's answers, people go, you know what, this guy's great. He gives great media, gives great examples like that. When you're talking on a panel, I've done quite a few of actually being in the panel, quite a few of actually hosting the panel. When I'm hosting the panel, I want the answers from the audience, from the panel, to be 30 seconds to a minute maximum. I tell them, if you hog the conversation, I will penalise you by not letting you speak again for a while. So keep them short answers. If I'm on their side, I cheat. I'm hogging everything. Because then they have to take the microphone off my streaming hands, well, the hands don't stream, but off my dying body until they give it back. But I don't necessarily do it and be unwelcome. I will change the game. So, did I mention to you about the Heels and Deals event I had? I had an event where I was in a room full of women, and the other speakers with me were all smart women. There's a royal.
You mentioned it last week.
Mentioned it last week. Okay. So you change the game. If you can change the game, change it so it's U-shaped, as in it's shaped around the way that you want to play it. And one of my favourite TV stars years ago was a guy called Paul Daniels, who's no longer with us. And he was a comedian, and he was a magician, and he wasn't one of those guys that you would necessarily say is a great presenter, but what he did was he felt like your mate. And so he'd point out things and little jokes here and there that made you just glad he wasn't so serious. And he became one of the go-to guests on every TV show, because he would just naturally fill that comedian bit without having to go into routines. He was just fun to have there. And he dominated in the 90s, I think, almost every game show, just by being the most popular guest and everything. Okay, do you want to answer this question as well, Austin?
I guess we all love food, so the person that I really would love to talk to would be Chef Gordon Ramsay, because most of my culinary experience so far, culinary experience aka being home cooking, has been shaped by his teachings and his recipes. And if I got the chance to meet him, I would love to talk to him about his experience working under Chef Marco Pierre White, and want to learn how how he took away what his mentor gave him and what he did with it, and what he feels like, how he's going to impart that knowledge to the next generation. So I feel that's something I would like to learn.
I like that answer. My challenge to you is you talk about Gordon Ramsay. That's not what Gordon Ramsay is about. Gordon Ramsay is about in your face, winding up, changing the game, forcing people to think strongly about how they run kitchens, how they make food, insulting people and getting eyeballs, and basically cooking like rock and roll. So again, like the thing we talked about earlier with David Attenborough, that I would say somewhere needs to be. Because yeah, Marco Pierre White, and your answer was great, you worked it out, but I'm still thinking, it's Gordon Ramsay we're talking about here, the sweary man. The man who just insults everybody, makes them cry on his TV show and gets the food and throws it on the floor and kicks it and says you're an idiot. That's the bit that I would want to know more about. So maybe what I would ask him that, and your answer was fine, but I would say, I love cooking, I love food, and I think the person I'd like to interview most would be Gordon Ramsay, because he's well known as one of the top chefs. He doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, make some of the best food, but he learned from some of the best people, but it's his attitude. The way he runs a kitchen, the way that he became a celebrity that's bigger than his restaurants. And he keeps it going. How does he find that? Because everyone who's a chef has got a big personality, but somehow he's managed to do it right. And he insults people, but still comes out even bigger. I'd love to know what his attitude is for that. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to answer it the way that I've done it, but I think that what it does is it maybe satisfies some people in the audience who go, yeah, I feel the same way about Gordon Ramsay. Because your answer was very much like a student would feel about this guy. Don't be scared to insult people. Don't be scared to upset the apple cart. You're being so respectful about a guy who's made a living out of not giving a monkeys. So go with it. You know, I like his attitude. I don't know how he gets away with it. I'd like to find, what makes him tick. That would resonate and it would make sense. But it was a good answer. Okay, everybody's answered this now, haven't they?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do one more, then we'll do something else. Okay. Deceased persons, equal that. Quality. Okay, let's take number 8.
God.
That one's the biggest ring.
Yeah, I mean, you need some time to think about that.
Yeah. But if you are on the spot, you've got to find ways of
But this is
answering.
all in terms of like leadership.
Yeah.
Future organization. Depends what subject you're speaking about.
You choose your subject. You can put out any answer you want. You dictate where this goes. So somebody could say to me, for instance, I'll give you an answer to this. How can we preserve a future for the next generation? Do you mean the future of the climate, the future of the planet, the future of politics, the future of money? Can you clarify which area you're talking about? So that's allowing me, by throwing it back at them, to go, where do I go with this? They'll say, well, you choose. Okay, climate. Here's what I think. And then I can go blah, blah, blah. David Attenborough, blah, 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 blah. Yeah?